Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Academy on Air after a short break. This is our second live stream on audience. Last time you had a chance to go through our audience solutions and understand the importance of an audience marketing. Today, we're going to deep dive into similar audiences, while the next live stream will be about smart display campaigns. So we hope to really give you a lot of insights on our products and how to use them. Similar audiences. So do you remember our audience framework? First, it's really important that you're able to identify your audience, because every type of audience-based marketing starts from understanding what your audience is. Leverage on the Audience Insights report to understand what your current users are in market for, what's their affinity, what are the demographics. So make sure you do use remarketing lists to identify your audience and leverage on the Audience Insights report. Re-engaging, remarketing, RLSA, those are really important to reach out to your audience, to people who have been on the website. Maybe they haven't converted because 96% of people leave a website without converting. They need to come back twice before purchasing, for example. So it's really important that you start your audience strategy by re-engaging to leverage on your most valuable users and improve your return on investment. But you do not really want to have a shortage into the number of people that get to your website, into new users. So it's really important that after you've started to re-engage with your audience, you also have a really good expansion strategy in place. And that's where solutions like similar audiences or remarket or smart display campaigns come into play. So really important, identifying, re-engaging, and expanding. Expansion through audience solutions is really important, because audience is not a guessing game. It's really important that you analyze data and you use pre-qualified audience solutions to bring new pre-qualified users to your website. This will have a good impact also on the quality of your remarketing lists, because if you're bringing to your website someone who has never been there before, but it's already similar to the users that are on your website, that have visited your website already, the quality of your remarketing lists will be higher. That's why it's really important that you understand how to leverage the different expansion strategies and the different audience solutions that allow you to expand the audience on your website. So today we're going to focus on similar audiences, although similar audiences is not the only expansion strategy that you can put in place. We'll see, for example, how smart display campaigns allow you to re-engage with users, but also expand your audience at the same time in the same campaign. So focusing on expansion, we know that remarketing lets you re-engage site visitors and driving ROI. Again, really important, because 96% of users leave a website without converting. It's every one of us. We always need to double check before purchasing. So we need to bring back users to the website, try to make them remember that they have been there, that they maybe liked our products, and make sure that they convert. So remarketing is purely focused on performance. 84% of people on the remarketing list will be reserved within a month. So there is a recency that comes into play. But what happens when you want to reach out to new customers? That's why we're introducing similar audiences today. When you think about a marketing strategy, again, audience is not a guessing game, and audience is really related to your strategy and to the objectives of your marketing strategy. All audience solutions are not the same. Remarketing objectives are not the same as similar audiences objectives. Remarketing is for driving action, is to grow loyalty if you're targeting, for example, past purchasers, while when you use similar audiences, you're trying to influence consideration. So you're trying to make your products, make your website known to someone who has never been there before, but it's similar to your current users, and you want to influence their considerations, purchasing, kind of inviting them to visit your website and maybe purchasing or converting from your website instead of the website of a competitor. That's why we say that we're trying to influence consideration when we use a solution like similar audiences. While if you're using, for example, affinity is a really broad reach. So you use affinity to kind of build awareness of your brand and your website, like you would do, for example, with a TV or radio ad. So really, really broad reach. Similar audiences are more specific because you're targeting users based on the fact that they are similar to your current users. How does that work? It's super simple because similar audiences lists are created automatically out of your remarketing lists. So once you have remarketing lists in your account, then you also have similar audiences because they are created automatically. You don't need to do anything, and they're ready to be used as soon as they populate with cookies. What's really, really important is that similar audiences are really fresh because, like any audience solution with Google, they are updated real time just to make sure that you're targeting the right people when it's most useful to them. But also, similar audiences automatically exclude data from your original remarketing lists. So you make sure that there is no overlap among your remarketing list and your similar audiences list. Similar audiences have tons of benefits. We have tried to summarize them here into this slide. What's important is to say that you can have a really huge scale when you use similar audiences. You can reach out to an audience that is on average 5 times greater than your current users. They are simple, again, because they are created automatically, so nothing really to do from your side when you already have remarketing lists and a remarketing code on your website. They use data and algorithms to be optimized and to be constantly updated and be fresh and be real time. And their performance is great, especially when layered with automatic bidding. That's our biggest suggestion. Do use automatic bidding on search and on display to make sure that every time we take into account signals for the auction, to give the right bid to every auction, we're taking into account these audience signals as part of that and make sure that we just deliver the right bid every time for every auction. So for example, if you're using Target CPA, we make sure that similar audiences signals are taken into account and that in that single auction, your Target CPA is kind of playing a part, including the audience signals as well. It's just more efficient than manual targeting, just because when you use manual targeting, manual bidding, you cannot really modify the bid according to that single audience. While when you're using or to that single auction, while when you're using automatic bidding, all signals are taken into account just to deliver the perfect bid. So not a manual bid that you have pre-selected, but just the perfect bid for that single auction and that single audience. Drive more qualified reach. So again, when you're using audience solutions, you're just playing a really precise game that is not a guessing game. We take your highest value customer, for example, Got Rewards or Card members. We analyze hundreds of signals. Again, not a guessing game, hundreds of signals. To understand what's the purchase intent, what's the demographic, their interest, so contextual and behavioral signals. And help you find future customers based on the behavior of your current users. Extend your reach. Again, reach out up to 5 times your current users. And again, really based on your current customers. Similar audiences work on these platforms, so they have a really huge and wide reach across different platforms. And this is something that is really important. Think about yourself. You are both users that search things on Google, but also users that browse different websites. When you are implementing a similar audience campaign on display, don't forget to add similar audiences to your search campaigns. We will see this in depth later. It's really, really important that all your audience strategies are cross-platform. So if you have a similar audience campaign on display, why don't you have similar audiences on search as well? Your users are everywhere. They're browsing websites, they're searching on Google, and you should be reaching out to users on those platforms where your users are. So really, really important to think across platforms and make sure that your audience strategy is really comprehensive. This is for similar audiences, but also for remarketing. RLSA just goes together with display remarketing and leverages the best and gives and delivers the best results. So we'll take similar audiences for search and similar audiences for display in two separate sections in this live stream, just because they are they have slightly different best practices and slightly different way of working, just because we really want to have precise way of reaching out to our users and really precise technology that differentiate browsing from searching. So when it comes to similar audiences for search, these search are created based on search behavior of your current users. So what happens is that a user visits your website and the cookie is added to your RLSA lists. Then there are other users that have never been on your website before that have similar search behaviors. These users get the chance to be added to your similar audience list. So when we talk about similar audiences for search, we talk about a search product. It's really, really important to understand that, again, if a user is in your similar audience for search list and visits your website, it's removed automatically from the RLSA list, from the similar audience list, and added to your RLSA list to make sure that there is no overlap and that a similar audience list is a list of fresh new users that have never been on your website. You can use similar audiences on search for your search keyword campaign, shopping, or DSA. What's really important when we talk about audience on search is that it's slightly different from audiences on display, because you use an audience on display, for example, to reach out to precise users. Say you have a remarketing campaign, then you're reaching out to the remarketing users of your lists. When we use RLSA or similar audiences on search, we use them to add new signals to the search campaigns. We really encourage you to use automatic bidding also on search to add remarketing, RLSA list, and similar audiences to your search campaign, but not in target and bid, in bid-only mode, because we want you to reach out to all potential users that are typing your keywords. Again, there is a strong intent signal there. Users are typing your keywords, that's why they see your ad. But layering with bid-only mode, similar audiences on search and RLSA allows you to modify the bids for those users if you are in manual bidding, or to take audience signals into account if you are on automatic bidding. So it's slightly different because we really recommend you to use audiences on search to tailor the bids to your users, not to target. And that's the biggest product value. This is because the keyword is what keeps you on the ground on search. The keyword is a really strong intent signal, so you don't need to go beyond that. What you need to do is to bid in a savvy way. So bid more and bid in a savvy way for those users that are most valuable to you. So RLSA users, people that have been already on your website, or similar audiences users. So people that have never been on your website but are really similar in search behavior to your current users. So some best practices for similar audiences on search. Of course, similar audiences need a remarketing tag to work and remarketing lists, because they are created automatically if you have remarketing list. So let's say that you have a remarketing list for all homepage visitors. The system will automatically create similar to all homepage visitors list. So the remarketing tag needs to be there and across all pages of your website so that you don't miss on any behavior of your website. You need to have similar audiences lists that have enough data, so give time to the system to populate the lists. Identify converters and purchasers, because it's really, really important that you tailor your expansion strategies to what's your objective. So if you want to drive conversions, it's maybe savvy to start with a list that is similar to those who have abandoned the cart or similar to the past purchasers. So something really lower funnel. Layer your list. This is exactly what I was saying before. Use your lists in bid-only mode. So not to reach out to only those users on similar audiences, but to tailor the bids, either if you're in manual bidding or if you're in automatic bidding, to tailor the bids according to how valuable the user is to you. And enhance similar audiences with smart bidding. Again, really important. It's super important to use smart bidding just because, again, the bid changes every time. It takes into account a lot of signals for every auction. And we have demographics on search, we have RLSA, we have similar audiences. It's just impossible for you to manage manual bid adjustment for all these types of lists. So let's say that you have 5 remarketing RLSA lists and 5 similar audiences lists in each of your ad groups or in each of your campaigns. It's 10 bid adjustment per campaign that you have to manage. It's time consuming and it's not really savvy because again, the manual bid that you choose and the manual bid adjustment that you choose might not be the right one for every single auction. So efficiency and getting the right and really good result is exactly what you need and what you can achieve through smart bidding, especially when layered with audience signals. Super important because you give more signals to the bidding algorithm to work really well. Remarketing tags should be really everywhere. Make sure you work with your webmasters to make sure that your website is tagged. This is both for remarketing lists and also for, of course, the similar audiences list created out of them. Similar audience lists need enough data, so don't panic if you see that they are not immediately populating. We need time, and also we need to have a really high degree of confidence that that cookie that we are adding to the similar audience list is a user, belongs to a user that is similar to your current users. So we need time to create that algorithm. So give it some time and wait for the list to populate. Again, tailor your expansion strategies to your objectives. So use lower funnel marketing lists first, converters and purchasers, and then go on with your expansion strategy when you're satisfied. And again, I will be never tired to repeat this. Make sure that your search campaigns, your shopping campaigns, your DSA campaigns are using similar audiences, but also RLSA in bid-only mode. Use smart bidding wisely. We recommend using smart bidding for all similar audiences campaigns. In case you're using manual bidding, just remember that your RLSA users are the most valuable ones to you. So the RLSA bid adjustment should be higher than the similar audiences bid adjustment. Use smart bidding to solve all these issues. We said that we're gonna cover best practices for search and display in 2 separate sections. So we just finished the similar audiences for search section. If you have any question, just comment on the video and we'll try to address questions at the end of this session. We're now gonna cover similar audiences for display. Again, would you have any question, please just write it down and I'll try to cover the majority of them at the end of the session. Similar audiences for search is based on search behavior, right? So we look at the search behavior and create similar audiences lists because they are a pure search-oriented product. For display, when we populate with cookies the similar audience lists, although the list is the same, you may have noticed that you have, for example, similar to converters lists, and you have a given number of cookies for search and a given number of cookies for display. these numbers of cookies might be different. And again, this is because the way we collect cookies for search, for similar audiences on search and similar audiences on display is slightly different, because similar audiences on search is based on search behavior, while for display, being similar audiences for display, a display product, those are based on browsing behavior. You can find potential customers with similar interests to your previous site visitors with similar audiences for display based on browsing behaviors of those cookies. Again, we use powerful technology and really sophisticated signals from millions of sites and apps across the display network to reach new users effectively. This is important. The signals need to be sophisticated. The audience needs to be real time, because we really want you to invest on valuable users. We want you to bring users that are valuable to you and your business to your website, and enhance also the quality of your remarketing lists as a consequence. Setting up for success, it's really, really easy. What we recommend is that you create a similar audience campaign separate from your remarketing campaign. So just allocate a separate budget for your similar audience campaign, create a campaign from scratch, add a separate budget, and we recommend you to have one ad group per list. So one ad group that is reaching out to users that are, for example, similar to converters, and one ad group that is reaching out to users that are similar to cart abandoners, if you are going for a lower funnel strategy. You can technically also add a similar audiences ad group to your current remarketing campaign. In that case, though, you will need to raise the target CPA of your campaign, because again, we are talking about expansion, so the target CPA will need to be a bit higher to reach out to new users as well. But we would take these as a maybe second option, because again, especially if you have a low budget or lower budget on your remarketing campaign, we really don't want to overlap or to interact. So just allocate a separate budget to your similar audiences campaign, and you will have the best performances there. Use automatic bidding. Again, never be tired of saying that, but automatic bidding and display or search, they go really, really well together. They just deliver better performances and better results. So target CPA, for example, it's a really, really good strategy for your new similar audiences campaign. Creatives, use the responsive ads. Those are the best ones just because they adapt to give you the biggest and the best amount of conversions that you can get given your target CPA. They adapt to different formats, whether they are native, whether they are display text ads or normal display ads. It's just the best format delivered every time for you to have the best and biggest amount of conversions. So responsive ads is really the best solution in any kind of display campaign. So this is valid for a similar audience display campaign as well. Again, nothing different here. Also for display, you need to have a remarketing tag on all the pages of your website, no exception, just because we want you to collect all data and activity on your website and not miss out on anything. So make sure that the remarketing lists are correctly tracking the users so that we can create similar audiences lists based on those in the best way. You should, again, start your similar audience campaign by using your best performing lists and lower funnel one. Again, no big difference here when it comes to search versus display. And this is a really nice thing. If you are, for example, already using a product feed, let's say that you're running a dynamic remarketing campaign, or for example, you have a merchant center account because you're doing shopping campaigns, then one really nice and savvy thing to do is when you create your similar audience campaign, in the campaign setting, you can add the feed. meaning that you will be able to show dynamic ads that include your product to the users that you're reaching out to in your campaigns, so to your similar audience users. This is really nice to do a kind of dynamic prospecting. As you do dynamic remarketing, you do dynamic perspective to your similar audiences users, delivering the best ads that are really relevant because they include pictures and landing pages from your current products or services if you're using dynamic remarketing for all verticals. So a really, really important thing to deliver the best ads all the time and make sure that your dynamic responsive ads are taking into account also the products that you have on your websites and in your feed. Measuring success. It's really, really important. One thing to consider before you start to evaluate the performance of your smart display campaigns, similar audiences campaigns, is that similar audiences is not remarketing. Remarketing, or RLSA, is a really performance-oriented tool which is meant to bring people back for the second time to your website and make them convert. So a similar remarketing list can show really good results also if you are in a last-click attribution model. For example, if you're looking at last-click conversions in your analytics account. When we talk about a similar audience campaign, we're talking, or similar audiences on search, we're talking about reaching out to users that have never been on your website before. Those users will not behave differently than any other type of user. We saw that 96% of users leave a website without converting. So what happens is that a similar audience campaign will bring traffic to your website, but in a last-click attribution model will probably not bring conversions because people will not convert the first time they visit your website. What the similar audiences campaign is doing is just to bring pre-qualified traffic to your website, make sure that your remarketing lists are filled with cookies that are really meaningful to you, and that remarketing list will bring back users to your website. So similar audiences campaign and remarketing campaigns just go together. One is for re-engaging and one is for expansion, and they have to be together just because a remarketing campaign by itself needs another campaign to make sure that you don't have a shortage in your upper funnel, that you have always new users and new clients visiting your website, with the advantage of those clients being pre-qualified to you. So you're not reaching out to users there and there without like a really structured approach. You're reaching out to new users based on their similarity to your current users. So when you evaluate the performances of your similar audiences campaign, just pause for a second and make sure that you are using the right attribution model all the time. Because probably in a last click attribution, so if you just look at last click conversions, that similar audiences campaign will not bring conversions. But what would happen is that if you stop that campaign, you won't probably have that campaign assisting your conversions on the websites anymore, meaning that that campaign that was playing a huge part in bringing new pre-qualified users and future customers on your website will just be stopped because you were not using the right attribution model. So measure first thing, view-through conversions. Similar audiences deliver a significant amount of view-through conversions. Be sure to give them fair credit. Make sure that in your analytics account, you're looking at the path to purchase and you see where you're in the multi-channel funnel report, where your users are coming from, whether they visited your website through the similar audience campaign and then maybe converted back through search or through a remarketing campaign. So take an holistic approach to measurement that is just not considering only last click, but it's also measuring view through and is measuring is taking into account view through and is taking into account Google Analytics multi-channel funnel reports, for example. Conversions, again, from similar audiences are incremental and should be evaluated as such. And again, measure the impact on your remarketing lists. Really, really important. The quality of your remarketing lists when you acquire new users through audience solutions is just higher, because you're not acquiring the wrong customers. You're not acquiring customers that are just not interested in what you offer just because you have a wrong strategy in place. You're acquiring users that are pre-qualified and really interested, with a really huge and great impact on your remarketing lists, both for RLSA and remarketing lists for display. Really important as well, what we were saying before is that overall, you should be bidding according to your strategy, and you should be bidding according to how valuable the users are for you. So avoid using the same target CPA as remarketing. Again, because those are two separate strategies. So similar audiences target CPA, a similar audience target CPA campaign should be higher than remarketing, because you're acquiring new users. So the target CPA will probably be higher. And again, just make sure that if you're going for a campaign where you have remarketing lists and you're creating a separate ad group for similar audiences, although this is not the best practice, but if you are going for this solution, just make sure that you don't forget to increase your budget on that campaign and also increase the target CPA by at least 30%. Again, just because you need a higher target CPA when you're using similar audiences. Long story short, best practice is just to have a separate budget for similar audiences with a target CPA which is higher than the target CPA of your remarketing lists. Landing page. Again, users need to find your content as relevant. So do not use landing page that is not tailored to your creative strategy. Think wisely about that as well. Good solution is to use a feed with dynamic linked together with dynamic responsive ads to make sure that you're doing kind of dynamic prospecting in the right way and people land on meaningful pages. A few success stories. So we've seen all the technicalities behind similar audiences for search. We've seen the best practices. We've seen all the technicalities behind similar audiences for displays. Those best practices, we've seen how the two are different, and we've seen how you should be structuring your similar audience strategy on search and on display. What we want to do here is to share with you some success stories from clients just like you that have used and are still using our similar audiences solution, and see what's the impact that they had on their conversions and marketing, online marketing audience strategy. So Fiat Chrysler, they drove 22% more conversions with similar audiences for search. Again, this is due to a lot of things. When we say that similar audiences for search performs well, it's because we are, for example, when we're using them in bid only, we're just saying that for us, those users are valuable. And if you're using automatic bidding, those should be taken into account in your automatic bidding strategy. So the algorithm will take those users into account and make sure that the bid for every single auction takes those signals into account and makes those users valuable in the auction. Same if you're using manual bidding, you will be raised your bids for those audience, because that audience is just more valuable to you than any other random audience, because it's similar to the users that you already have on your website. Bid savvily. This is another example with Cheap Caribbean that maximized vacation booking with similar audiences for search, with a really, really good and positive increase in click-through conversions and 20% of all non-brand transactions. Really important, especially in such a competitive market. And this is what I said. We had a really tremendous success with our RLSA campaigns, and we're very pleased that we could replicate that success with similar audiences for search. Again, think strategically, think holistically. Think about an audience strategy. Don't think about an RLSA strategy or a marketing strategy or a similar audiences for search strategy. Audience is about reaching out to users that are interested in what you offer. So when you have a similar audiences campaign on display, Add similar audiences for your search campaigns. When you have an RLSA campaign, create a display remarketing and make sure that when you have display a successful re-engage strategy already in place, you don't forget to create similar audiences campaigns to make sure that, again, you have the right users, right new users on your website. They just go all along. And it's really, really important that you think holistically and you think cross-platform. Just don't think only about display, think about display and search together, YouTube or whatever you're advertising on, because your users are on those different platforms all the time. So this is a sports apparel online company. And they use similar audiences for display with dynamic ads to drive sales with, again, positive results. So for us, it was really important to share with you real life examples of customers that use savvy audience strategies to reach out to their objective and maximize their conversions. So just to summarize the key benefits of an expansion strategy through similar audiences. Scale, so really high reach. Simplicity, these are key benefits that are valid for both display and search. Data, signals, really useful and meaningful data included in your lists to make sure that you're targeting to the right, you're reaching out to the right users every time, including real-time update, because we really want data to be fresh and meaningful to you. And really, really good performances, especially when layered with automatic bidding. We have some time now for Q&A. I'll just check if there are some questions. There is no question for now, but you still have maybe a couple of seconds to fill in your questions. Or otherwise, we'll finish. All right, no questions for today's session. So we really hope this was useful. We really hope that we gave you a lot of insights on how to expand your audience through similar audiences. And we really hope that you understood how simple this is and how it's important to reach out to users that are on your website already, but also users that are new and pre-qualified for you across different platforms. So really, my suggestion is to take an holistic approach to audience all the time, analyze the audience insights report and take it from there and reach out to your users on display and on search through a really structured approach like the one we saw today. So thank you very much for your attention. Next session will be on a smart display campaign. So I really encourage everyone to attend because it's a really, really important tool for your performances that allows you to do remarketing and expansion together. So make sure you do attend the next session and thank you.